So we rescheduled a ceremony for all of our Distinguished Alumni Award winners, and that will be, like I said, April 16th of 2020. In the meantime, we thought the web series would be a wonderful way for a broad group of our alumni audience to meet and hear from our 2020 award recipients. So tonight we're starting with Darrell. And if you are new to the call, I want to let you know that we are recording the call for those that couldn't attend this evening. And also Hannah is muting everybody, and that is so that we can hear the speakers very clearly. If you have a question or want to make a comment, by all means, we have the Zoom chat. So please add your comments and questions there. So without further ado, I'd like to pass it on to Milt Barnes, our leader for the evening. Milt graduated from Albion in 1979, and he is also the creator of the James L. Curtis Award. So Milt, take it away.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that introduction, and let me just start out by saying how honored I am to have this opportunity to be a part of this program, and also to be a part of introducing Dr. Darrell Williams, also known to those of us who attended school with him as Big D. And we can get more into that later. But it's also a great honor to have this award named after one of the most successful people I know in his profession, but also who's been an outstanding leader everywhere he's been, particularly when it comes to helping African-American students, whether it's at the University of Michigan or at Cornell University, or just being a psychiatrist, serving people in his community. So I want to introduce a guy who I think this award has been overdue and something that should have been done years ago. But I'm honored by the fact that I have this opportunity to introduce from the class of 44, Dr. James L. Curtis. Dr. Curtis, can you unmute your... And what I like to do, Dr. Curtis, is, just give, we want you to give just a brief, because a description and background of yourself, because I think it's important that people know you probably can't share everything, but you can give people at least a brief summary of the things that you've accomplished, because there are so many things that you have accomplished over the years. And so it would just be great if you could share, and I'll mention this, that Dr. Curtis will give you a brief summary, but there's a book that is written, The Memoirs of a Black Psychiatrist, that everyone should get out there and purchase, because it gives you all the details of everything that Dr. Curtis has experienced over these many years. So without me taking up any more time, Dr. Curtis, please give us just a brief run through of the years of experience that you have as an Albion College student, which eventually led to you being a successful and distinguished psychiatrist.
Well, it's a great pleasure for me to talk with you, Milt. I first think I would like to give a few highlights about some of the major achievements in my career before I talk about the way that Albion College has played a part in that. So let me just say that I have written 3 books which summarize the major achievements in my career. The first book was written in 1971, and it was called Blacks, Medical Schools and Psychiatry and Society. And it was written at the beginning of affirmative action programs around the country. To give a rough example of the situation with the admission of minority students to predominantly white medical schools, In 1970, approximately 85% of all physicians who were practicing, that is all Black physicians who were practicing medicine in the country, and all Blacks who were in any medical schools in the United States, 85% of them were at the two predominantly Black medical schools, Howard University in Washington, D.C., and Meharry College of Medicine in Nashville, Tennessee. 85%, only 15% of all medical students and practicing physicians who were Black had graduated from any of the more than 100 other medical schools in the United States. But in just a short period of 5 years, those percentages were completely reversed as a result of affirmative action. So that by 1975, only 15% of medical students who were in medical schools were enrolled at Howard and Meharry, and 85% were enrolled in the more than 100 other medical schools that had been previously predominantly all white. So this was the beginning of affirmative action, and it happened because a lot of things had changed in the country. Following World War II, a considerable amount of money had gone into completely rebuilding the medical infrastructure in the United States. With the passage of Medicare and Medicaid, there was a tremendous number of Americans who, for the first time, were able to pay for medical care. As a result of this, there were not nearly enough doctors. And there certainly were not nearly enough doctors in training that would correct that situation. And it was for this reason that the medical establishment, including the American Medical Association, the National Medical Association, which had previously been started for Black physicians and dentists because the American Medical Association did not permit them to belong and become members, the American Hospital Association, the American Pharmaceutical Association. Every one of these associations were in favor of affirmative action because they knew that something had to change. So that not only were there this greater percentage of minority students in predominantly white medical schools, but there were 2 or 3 times as many total medical students. There were even a 50% increase in the number of medical schools altogether. So therefore, affirmative action was able to succeed because it increased the numbers of everybody, even including white physicians. There were more of them than there had ever been before. So this is what made affirmative action a success. My second book was published in 2003, and that book demonstrated what had happened to approximately 2,000 minority physicians who had entered medical school in the 1970s, and how were they practicing and where were they practicing in the mid-1990s, 20 to 25 years later. Well, that study demonstrated that these 2 samples of 2,000 medical students who became medical doctors from both groups, it showed that the minority physicians were practicing mainly in zip codes where they came from. This is where their support systems were. The white physicians went back to the zip codes where they came from, middle and upper income. And that's where they came from, so that everybody was sort of returning to their roots. And this is because America is still considerably a segregated society. And under those circumstances, affirmative action was an attempt to address that problem. Now, my third book was published in 2017, Memoirs of a Black Psychiatrist. And that hits the highlights of my career, including the 20 years since I have been back here in my hometown of Albion, where I grew up. And I have made, during those 20 years, major contributions to Albion College to promote their diversity programs. I have made even more contributions to the University of Michigan to support their diversity programs. The major one being to establish in the University of Michigan School of Social Work, from which my wife graduated in 1948, 2 years after I graduated from the medical school. The University of Michigan School of Social Work now has a Center for Research in Health Equity, which was started primarily by substantial financial donations that my wife and I made to establish that research center. So now that I've given these brief indications of what my career has amounted to, let me just give a brief survey of some of the major things that I've done. After finishing Albion High School, in 1940, I went to Albion College, where I continued to pursue my interest, which at that time was to become a lawyer. So I was at first a pre-law student with the intention to practice law. And just as in high school, I carried it over into college. I was a member of the debate squad. I was a member of the oratorical and extemporaneous speaking contests. And I was a major winner in many of these. For instance, in my high school years, I won the state championship for extemporaneous speaking for high schools. And then in my freshman year at Albion College, I won the extemporaneous speaking contest for colleges in the state of Michigan. So that in my freshman year, I was a celebrity from that point, because I had made a major contribution that everyone recognized. And so I had a lot of people who continued to support me and to develop my potential to become a leader, because I wanted to be a leader, to gain civil rights for my people. In fact, in 1941, in my freshman year at Albion College, I established a chapter of the NAACP, and I encouraged members of the Albion College faculty to become members, and 4 or 5 of them did become members. Professor Carol Lehman was professor of speech And he was the major supporter of me in those years, because he tutored me and helped me to become a great extemporaneous speaker and orator. And I won second place in a national contest for oratory. World War II had just broken out. And when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor and Roosevelt declared war against Japan, well, this was a time when Black people were not able to serve in the Navy except as messmen and servants and kitchen help. But one of the Black Navy men who was Black and had never been trained manned a machine and shot down a Japanese plane and became a national hero. So the title of my oration was "Even as We Fight and Die." And of course, it meant that we still were not given the rights of full citizens. Well, I came in second in that contest, but actually I should have come in first, because it turned out that there were 5 judges who were supposed to rate orators from 1 to 5, 5 being the best, and 4 of them voted me the best, and 1 of them voted me the worst. So that I ended up winning second to a student from Northwestern who came out first. But that convinced me that if you shake the boat, you are sure to shake a lot of enemies who will absolutely come out and identify themselves. Well, so I changed my mind and decided that I would not become a lawyer, but I would become a physician instead, because it seemed to me that since I was anti-war and an activist and a pacifist, I would rather, instead of shooting people and killing them, I would rather save their lives, because physicians were unarmed and did not fire weapons in combat. So this then was one of the interesting experiences in my years at Albion College, and Professor Lehman remained a close friend of mine for many years. As a matter of fact, he said that if you plan to come back to Albion and as a social worker, members of my family and I will build a community center for you, so that you can have many different kinds of social service programs for the Albion Black community. So then after I changed from law to medicine, the next big professor who was a main mentor for me was Dr. Chickering, who was professor of biology. Dr. Chickering had a very interesting life. He grew up in a poor farming village in upstate Michigan, and his parents did not send him to school at all. So that when he was a teenager, about age 16, members in his little, some of the people in his little church in that village recognized that he was an intelligent young man. And so what they decided to do was to individually tutor him. So a minister and a lawyer and a physician gave him private tutoring until he was 20 years old. And he not only became literate, he was able to get into college, and he graduated with honors. Dr. Chickering went on to become one of the world's greatest experts on spiders. And his collection of spiders was one of the largest in the country, second largest to the collection of spiders at Yale University, collected by a Professor Petrunkovich. Well, when Dr. Chickering died, he donated his spider collection to Harvard University in the United States, and that's where it is until this day. So the other professor at Albion College who took a very, very great interest in my development was a professor of economics, Walter Turpening. Walter Turpening wanted me to understand that I would face considerable obstacles in my life because of race prejudice. And so in his church service one Sunday, one of the members who owned a large apple orchard just on the outside of Michigan, of Albion, told members of the congregation that they could come out and pick as many apples as they wanted that had fallen to the ground because it was a bumper crop that year. So Professor Turpening asked me if I would like to go out with him to pick some apples. And I said, of course. So I went out with him and we went out to the orchard. We both had our sacks. We began to pick up apples and put them in our sack. And the owner of the orchard rushed out and said, "What's going on here?" Professor Turpening said, "You remember you said in church that anyone who wanted apples could come and pick as many as they want? Well, that's what we're doing." The owner of the orchard said, "Yeah, but I only meant white people. I didn't mean anybody could come out and pick them. So you can keep your apples, but that young colored boy will have to empty his sack of apples." So Professor Turpening and I went back to his car and we came back to Albion, and he apologized to me for the humiliation that I had suffered. And he said, "You can have my apples," but of course I didn't want his apples.
Dr. Curtis, I don't want to cut off your story, but there's so many things you can share with us. And if you don't mind the hanging on and sharing more with us after we will jump in and get Darrell on for a minute, and then we're going to hang around with you and Darrell.
Absolutely.
Okay, I really appreciate it. And I thank you for sharing that information. I mean, you've got so much to share, I know. And those of us that want to stick around and hear more about Dr. Curtis' experiences, I suggest you hang on but we want to get Dr. Darrell Williams on the platform to be able to share with all of us his experience and some of the things that he would like to share with us tonight. Big D, that you got the floor.
I thank you all for joining us this evening. This is an extreme privilege and to be here, to be accepting this award from in the name of Dr. James Curtis. Listen, that brother graduated in 1944 and he's telling these stories from memory. There's things I did last week I don't remember. I be honest with There's things I did 2 weeks ago, and he's going back to 1940 something and telling these stories. So we appreciate your memory, Dr. Curtis. We appreciate the stories. You probably have some great stories that you can share with the population, and we could sit and listen to you all day, my brother. So we appreciate it. I thank you for this award, this leadership award, and I am honored that I'm the first recipient of the leadership award in your name at Albion College. They asked me to share a few stories about Albion College, so I'm going to tell a few stories. But I want you to understand, as a leader, you don't just wake up and say, I'm going to be a leader today. And so what happens is you wake up and there's things that goes on around you, and you decide that you're going to make a difference. There's things going on around you, and you just do it to change the outcome. There's fellow students struggling in sports, school, and life, and you give them encouraging words. So you just do it. When the time comes to stand up and make things go forward, you just stand up and just do it and make things come forward. There are a lot of people in my life that are responsible for my success of where I am. Dr. Ludington is on the line now. He was my physics teacher. And he'll tell you that I sat in the front, baby, because I was like, listen, whatever you got, if you drop a word, I want to pick it up. I'm going to be in the front row, and I want to learn what you have to learn. And so I struggled in classes. I wasn't the brightest cat around, but I was a hard worker. And Dr. Ludington said, Darrell, listen, why don't you come over to my office after class? We was laughing about that earlier. He had that little pipe, smoke everywhere. And he would say, we would sit down with me and show me what I needed to do to move forward. There's some, when I was at Albion, there were some exceptional leaders around. James Mackey, African American Union, Ambers Harper was president. Coletta Nelson Thomas was a leader that helped me. My coach, Frank Jarenko, and Coach Beckoff was on the line. My professors, Ludington, I don't know if you all remember Stella Hogberg and Dr. Frick, and my captains of my football team. I love these guys, Rick Otis and the late Dave Abbott and the late Kevin Schaefer. They were outstanding leaders. And if you watch these guys as leaders and you followed their leadership, you had to come out on top. So when I followed them, when I saw what they did, I decided that, okay, let's do it this way. One of the things that helped me was I had just took a chemistry exam, and I was going to major in chemistry until I took it. Once I took it, I was like, no, I got to get out this class, because I know by the time I got to physical chem and organic chem, I would be a nervous wreck. So I changed my what I majored in. And one of the things that happened was I took a test, didn't do well. I went up in, was it Wesley or wherever it was, in the from there, you're going to be all right. So that helped me out. When I got to Albion as a freshman, all of my teammates who listened to me would tell you, we had 3-a-day practices in 90-degree temperature. I don't know how we did that, but we had 3-a-day practices. And the second day of practice, I said to my roommate, James Mackey, I said, man, I'm ready to go home. And he told me these words, shut up, D, you'll be all right. And so that helped me to move forward and do what I have to do. I say that Barnes did the same thing when he came in as a freshman. He was 2 years behind me. And he was a young cat from Saginaw. He was homesick. He like, man, I'm ready to go home. And I took 2 years earlier, shut up, Milton. you're going to be all right. So what I discovered was that as you move along the ladder academically and as leaders, your job is to reach back and help somebody come up the ladder to help you. We have a picture in our lobby, not the lobby, we have a picture in our foyer where there's a picture of a guy reaching over a roof on a ladder, and somebody's reaching up at him and he's pulling them up. So what I found out was, as you come along, you need somebody to help you out along the way. I had great help. Dr. Ludington, Coach Jarenko and Beckoff, they were there to help you along the way. And here's what they did. Not only were they instructors and sports coaches, but all the athletes would tell you, you can't get to your potential unless you push to your maximum. And Lord have mercy, Coach Beckel and them push us to our maximum. As a matter of fact, Coach Beckel, they were panning, and we were like, we're about to whip these guys' heads because they're not in shape like us. So that pushing you made you better. That pushing you let you get your potential. That academic pushing from our instructors made you be critical thinkers to make you push to your limits so that you can get to where you are. So that's what helped me at Albion. Now, the most important aspect of Albion was I met Yolanda Williams. I married 38 years ago, right? Saw her over there in Wesley Hall. She had on green pants, a yellow two-top, and open-toed sandals. But I think that's what that child had on. And from that day, I was spitting, and she's been my wife for 38 years. So I appreciate Albion for meeting her, number one. I appreciate Albion for pushing me when I went into dentistry. I had much help to help push me along the way. And then after I got into dentistry, I was trying to help other students. In fact, my parents were on Shirley Williams scholarship to go to school. So these are things that came along. I don't have all the awards Dr. Curtis has. The only thing I was number one in was that darn football team, baby, in 1976. So that was great for me. I am the current Wolverine dental president, and I learned that because of Dr. Ron Livingston was the president, outgoing president, and I saw how he acted and did things. And so I learned how to do that. So Albion College was a great fit for me. It was perfect for me. It was a football team where I could had the ability to play, had a chance to play. It was a small school where the student professor teacher student ratio was small. Because you know what, like I told you all, I needed help. So the instructors were right there, and the instructors would call your name out. I raised my hand, asked a question, and Dr. Lund said, yeah, Darrell, what is, you know, that's not happening. So Albion was perfect for me. And I appreciate this time and opportunity to be here tonight. I thank you all for my friends. Dr. Curtis is a dynamic guy. Man, I'm telling you, what a dynamic memory, Jack. Like I tell you, man, something I can't remember that I did stuff I did last month. And that brother came back from 1944 and telling stories. And had more stories to tell, too. So thank you, Albion College. Thank you, Dr. Curtis. Thank you, Catherine and Hannah, for this award. I thank my wife because she was behind all of this when it came down. I never knew all of this was happening, and Yolanda and Milton were behind this. So I thank you all for this opportunity to be here today, and I hope that maybe when I turn 90, I'll be sitting here telling the story about the 77 when I graduated. So thank you all for this opportunity.
Thanks, D. We really appreciate you. You know, I think I would be remiss to not mention the fact that what came out and how this award came about was not solely on the voice of Milton Barnes. There was a group of us. We have now formed the Albion College Black Alumni Chapter. And the committee, after consideration of a number of applicants and nominations, chose Darrell Williams to be the inaugural recipient. So I want everyone to know that the Albion College Black Alumni Chapter is in full operation. We have many people out there who are steadily joining and becoming a part and reconnecting with Albion College, because what Albion College has done for all of us in our experience and obviously in our career. So I want to thank Kathleen and Hannah for helping to organize this and put this together. And I know Dr. Johnson would have liked to have been on himself because he certainly wanted to hear more of some of Dr. Curtis's stories, but was also looking forward to hearing Dr. Darrell Williams as well. So without further ado, Hannah, I'm going to give it back to you. And I want to just thank everyone. But remember, you can stay on and we can have more conversations. Dr. Curtis, please stay on so you can continue to share some of your stories. And Big D, you know, there's some guys on this call who I know will want to say something to you. So hang on and don't hang up.
No, I think I just saw Dr. Hogberg say something on the thing, didn't I?
Yeah, Dr. Hogberg is on there. Dr. Hogberg is on there.
Yeah, Kathleen, go ahead and wrap us up. Kathleen? I think you're muted. I'm sorry, guys. I'm failing in the tech department tonight, and that was like my one job. So give me 1 second. KBOSHEARS.
No, not yet.
Thank you.
There we go. This
Thank
is all my fault. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's not your fault.
Don't worry about it.
Thanks so much for hosting, Milt. Dr. Curtis, amazing stories and so many more to tell. Darrell, congratulations on your wonderful achievement and award. And it's so wonderful to see all the wonderful comments from all of your peers or coaches or what have you. So I can tell how well liked and how popular you were.
Thank you.
As we wrap up the evening, I'm going to invite you to our next web series event, everybody. It's on August 12th at 7:30, and we're going to hear from 3 more distinguished alumni. We have Deanna Baring, class of '85. She currently leads and coordinates Penn State's portfolio of international research and educational programs. She's worked for the CIA and the Department of Commerce, and Deanna is also working on her first book, A Guide to Help Students Find Their Way in Passion Economy. We also have Craig Kirby, class of '85. He's a retired political strategist whose clients have included presidents and federal legislators. His nonprofit, Golf, My Future, My Game, gives youth, people of color, and women a unique opportunity to strengthen problem-solving and career development skills through mastering a challenging sport. If you play golf, you know it's challenging. And last, we have our distinguished young alum, Christopher Blaker, class of 2014. He's an American historian who works for the Department of the Navy as a scholarly book and journal editor at the Marine Corps University Press. He's published a book, numerous articles in journals and magazines, and gives lectures throughout the country. Chris has also offered historical consultation on a Hollywood film and was recently featured on NPR. So those are our 3 guests on August 12th. And then I hope you can enjoy, or I hope you can join to hear Deanna, Craig, and Chris. But in the meantime, our regular program has come to a conclusion. However, if you'd like to stay on and talk with Darrell more or hear more from Dr. Curtis or Milt, you're more than welcome to stay on and just kind of have some casual open conversation. So thanks everybody for joining, and we'll all see you next week or 2 weeks on August 12th.
Thank you.